after I realized the type of imagery and the things that I really wanted to say and that were possible for me to say at that time in these curtains, I just kind of went with it. So this is entitled, I think it's The World and the Way Things Are. It's not quite that big, but it's one of the larger curtains, again, trying to depict these very particular spaces. Occasionally, some of the curtains would be a little more abstract, but again, dealing with those places where I think I found myself or could see myself, and the rules that I started to build for myself and construct around the making of these pieces. The imagery lines up really well with that. So this is Empire. I don't quite remember the year. I think this might be 2004. It's probably about 4 by 4 foot square. Yes?
Can you explain?
Sure.
With the hair and the beads?
Sure. I sometimes I have pictures of them in the studio in process, but I don't think I have any of those in this talk tonight. But I will, I'll use this one as a good example. So ideally, first I find the image. So once I find the image that I am interested in turning into one of these curtains, that also has to follow the rules that I've set up for myself in the making of these. Once I find the image, it gets quickly run through the computer, only to make a copy, no sort of digital manipulation whatsoever, just to make a sort of hard copy and a transparency, and maybe get sized in the size that the final iteration will be. The transparency is projected onto a large piece of white paper, and I make a cartoon, which is just a very, very loose line drawing of what and where I want things to go. And then the aluminum bar that is on top that has been strung with the braids is just put on top of the paper, and then we start stringing beads from the bottom up. And so the image is built from the top down, and then it just gets finished on the bottom. So it's a really kind of laborious, slow process, and things don't always line up in a way, but somehow at the end it tends to work. The hair, I buy the hair braided in bags and have figured out how to fuse it together to get the lengths that I need. And then, I go to the craft store or any store that I know that can sell the beads that I use, and then I have a massive collection of beads, and then we just start stringing them along. So as you can see, like about 4 beads is about 1 inch in length. Someone once did the math on the amount of beads for the first curtain, and I have that number somewhere, but I promptly forgot it because it's math. But it's a lot of beads. And it really is, like I said, it's a really laborious process that I think if someone had told me a long time ago that, one, I might be making landscapes like this, and using beads and having this really labor-intensive process, I never would have believed them. But I found myself there, and it seemed to feel good. And it worked, and it let me do what I wanted to do. This is a piece called Hutch, a playground. This is one of the very rare pieces that actually depict something urban in terms of the beaded curtain works. So this is entitled Bam Bam. It's probably about 7 feet across, and I'm not sure how many feet up and down off the top of my head, but actually it looks close to that size. Close to that, maybe a little shorter. But yes, again, the very rare one that might not toe the line as the other ones. This is a modernist house. It has no title besides that. But I talk a little bit about the rules that I set up, and I guess I shouldn't just talk about them. I could talk a little bit about them because I think it could be important. So I really don't want anything that is impossible it's basically anything that I can't see. So there's not any, I'm not flying when I look at the imagery. It's not something that I can't stand up somewhere and see myself. So there's nothing like magical or fantastical about it. It is really, in my mind, grounded in the reality of being like a 6'2" black guy standing somewhere, and whatever I see out there from that vantage point is how I want to approach making this work. And I think that that's been really important to me in my understanding of how I position myself and how I want the work positioned as well. So here we go. Sometimes they deal with a little bit more architectural. So I will also say that, because it often comes up, people ask me where the imagery comes from, and sometimes I take it, sometimes it is my own imagery, sometimes it is appropriated, but I never sort of tell anybody what is what, right? So I know where these things come from, but I don't really share where they came from. I think this is blurry, but I have a better detail of it there, of this awesome eucalyptus tree. We have some more? Yes, we have some tall trees, a long, narrow one. Again, still trying to figure out how does landscape work in my practice. So after many, many years of making a ton of those curtains, which we've seen quite enough so far, I realized that they needed to do some other things. So at some point, they started to be pushed into corners. At some point, they jumped off the wall. The ones that got pushed into corners sort of started to evolve into other things: corners, floors, other ways to really start to push the parameters of what I'm trying to do. So this is the first one that jumped off the wall to a free-standing, free-hanging piece. This is called Glint, and this is from 2000 and something. I think 2006. I think about this as like the Death Star because it's such a dark, potentially brooding thing. But again, the same rules sort of apply. I really like, I think I showed a lot of daytime ones, but there's something really sweet to me about other times of day that are can be morning, can be evening, that are sort of the unknown times. So this depicts the side of a building that has been abstracted, and then some neon signage in a sort of urban environment. The other side has a street at night and a tree. I don't think I have images of that, but and it's about 5 feet by 7 feet. Right after that, the next and other one, last one that jumped off the wall, is this, and this is entitled Gainer, and this is from 2006. So this depicts a giant swimming pool. So this is 12 feet long. So this is the largest one that I have made to date, 12 feet long by 3 foot wide. Again, all the beads are placed on there by hand. Nothing is painted. There is really no way I can outsource this. All these questions that get asked a lot of times, painted by hand, I do have help occasionally. So my goal on this one, and here's the other side of it, was to try and depict something that is flat, like the pool, in a three-dimensional shape, which is the sort of box, but retaining the two-dimensionality, the super flatness of the thing that I'm trying to make. So I think I was okay. You know, it was okay. I guess I was kind of successful. It still looks flat when you look at the corner that it wraps around, flat and three-dimensional at the same time. There's always something that is really appealing to me about work that can flip and do lots of things at the same time. And it's almost like, it's not quite ambivalence, but it is a flexibility, I think, in the work that I often strive for, right? The sort of a little neutral middle ground so that you, the viewer, can make some decisions as to what is actually going on.